All right, everybody, we got a great one here today. This is a 2012 Mercedes C250 with a 1.8 liter in it. And we've got a car that goes into limp mode every time you give it some gas. If you full throttle this thing, it's in limp mode right away. So let's get into this thing and find out what's going on with it. Let's get into it. All right, here's what we got, everybody. 2012 Mercedes C250, 1.8 liter. Limp mode every time you accelerate hard. We have pull codes. It has got a P2123. Is that right, Andy?
Yes, 2123.
Okay, 2123. Andy's not in uniform today. We're actually here on a Sunday. Please excuse the video quality. Andy and I are not the cameraman. We miss our cameraman. But we're here on a Sunday just trying to get caught up on some diagnostics. We don't do this a lot, actually very rarely. But we're a little behind on diagnostics. And this is a car that Andrew's been working on. He hasn't been working on it a lot. He hasn't had a lot of time in it, but it's one that'll probably be on him tomorrow. It's his anniversary weekend, and hopefully we can have an anniversary present for him tomorrow and have a car that's diagnosed that he doesn't have to worry about. Just kind of give him a hand. So here's what we got. We got an accelerator pedal position sensor code P2123, and this thing goes into limp mode, and that code will set every time you go down the road and you accelerate hard. So what we've done is we've come in here. I'm gonna grab the video and show you where we're at, what our thought process is. So we've come in, we've got a wiring diagram. Let's go. Hopefully you guys can see this. What we've got is our accelerator, that's our throttle position wiring. And then we've got our accelerator pedal wiring. Where is it at? Here we go, accelerator pedal wiring, okay? So, be very straight with you and honest with you. It's got a lot of terminology over here. They are not giving us, we see nothing inside the sensors. You see inside this sensor, we can see kind of what's what, but you see in this accelerator pedal, it gives us nothing. So we have no idea which wire is doing what here, but that's okay. We have gotten into every wire. We're gonna see which one's what. When we get it on the scope, we'll be able to determine which one is what. The only thing we won't be able to determine by looking at the scope is if accelerator pedal position sensor 1 and accelerator pedal position sensor 2, we won't be able to determine that, but we will determine that once we get in there. We'll look at the wiring diagram and we'll look at some other data and we'll figure that out. So right now we're on our throttle position sensor. This is our throttle position sensor signals, correct?
Correct.
And then we are on all of the wiring for our accelerator pedal position sensors. So just we got a little whiteboard. We just kind of jot a few things down. That's Andy's.
Yeah, tech tip here. Yeah. We try to keep the whiteboards with us. We'll write everything down. Forgive the chicken scratch. I'm a lefty. If I write this nice, I'm smearing it and wiping it right off. So you get my chicken scratch today.
It's always good when you're doing having a lot of scope leads hooked up that you can write that down so you'll know what it is. These whiteboards, you can get them on Amazon. They're super, super cheap. I think I buy them 25 at a time. They get worn out. So we also use those when cars are apart and things like that. Shields in the trunk, things like that, so that you take it apart, you throw that on the dashboard, and so that way somebody doesn't let the car go out here with shields sitting in the trunk. So, all right. So we're gonna get the scope hooked up. We got all the wiring hooked up. We got the scope running. We got the leads running inside. We're gonna get the scope hooked up on the inside, and then we're gonna go for a test drive, see if we can't get this thing to go into limp mode. We know it will, and then we'll come back to you. All right, everybody. So we're in the car and we've got everything hooked up. All of our wiring's hooked up. We've got our leads running out to the car. We've got out the window. We don't have them pinched in the window. They're just kind of sitting there. They're loose. The ground is on the battery, always on the battery. And we have got our E-scan now. So E-scan is hooked up. This generic scan tool from Automotive Test Solutions. Great, a absolutely wonderful feature of this is this. This scan tool will interact with the scope. So we've got the scope hooked up also. There's our scope, and it's running right now. If I accelerate, there you go. So right now, there's no codes in our engine module. We've got it that it reads continuously, okay, the codes, and once the DTC is detected, it's going to stop. It's going to stop the e-scope. That, I can't tell you how fantastic that is. So that means that all the data, we're going to be driving down the road, and realistically, we're doing it with 2 people. You know, always safer to do it with 2 people. But let's say that you don't have 2 people. Well, set this thing up, drive down the road. This thing will when it sets a code, it'll stop the e-scope, and it'll start beeping at you, telling you that it's stopped the e-scope and that there's code set. So, I mean, you can't ask for any better than that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to monitor the e-scope, and we're going to go drive down the road and get this thing into fail-safe, and then we're going to come back and look at the data. So let's go ahead. And once again, we're not camera people.
It's time for a GoPro. We need like a racing helmet and mount it to the top. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Racing helmet, mount it to the top, GoPro. I probably have all of that, to be quite honest with you.
The boss man doesn't normally like my driving, so you can notice he's driving today.
Yeah. All right. I think we've got a good... I'm going to try to zoom in, everybody, but, you know, we are going to be driving, and nobody's going to be looking at the screen while we're driving, this camera screen. So, all right, I think we're good. If you guys could see how I had this camera situated, you would probably laugh. But, all right, here we go.
Now, guys, when this code is set in the past on us, we know, because a lot of times the check engine light may not illuminate, but the traction off light does come on. So that's always a big indicator for us.
Which we find a little strange, but got to go with what they put in there. All right.
Look at all that traffic on a Sunday.
We literally, I've got clear roads, everybody. All right, so I'm just light throttle. I'm flooring it right now. It's going nowhere. And
it just set
traction
the
lights are set on.
And we just set our code.
Code's set already.
And we didn't even make it a block down the road. But we went ahead and it set the P2123 throttle position APP code. It's a APP to throttle position high input code.
If everybody can hear, hopefully you can hear that. So if you were driving alone, that little bling, 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 that is the e-scan saying, hey, a code set, and I paused the e-scope. So if we hit that green bar.
Well, first, let's show that it actually stopped. You guys can see right here it stopped. We're going to go ahead and save that data real fast. And
let's go back over to the other one.
But let's go over to the e-scan real quick.
We'll save the data in the scope, and then when we get back to the shop, we'll review that data, and then we'll get back with you once we get everything at the shop hooked up and set up, and where we can look at the data so that you guys can come along with us for the ride and see what's going on with this thing. All right, everybody, we're back from the test drive. We've got our data here where it failed. So we're gonna zoom in here. We see there's a lot of hash in here and stuff. I'm not really overly concerned about that. I'm gonna process that out in a second. But before I process it out, I wanna be sure that I don't see something super crazy. Like this right here was when it first started, which a little bit I'm looking at that, but I'm not overly concerned with that unless it's happening over here where it failed. So let's blow this up and let's see what we find here. So again, we're not seeing anything that's like super crazy. First of all, let's do the basics. Let's go right here. That power is perfect. That power is not dropping off.
That would be the green trace, correct?
That's the green trace.
Okay.
Yep. We see that thing's holding steady. There's done no blips or anything in that. These grounds look good. I don't see an issue there. So we can call the grounds good. I'm going to clean that up in a second. I don't see any big drops on anything. I mean, these little hashes, I'm not concerned about that. These are hashes, but they're everywhere, and it's not really causing an issue that I see. I don't see a big dip here or drop out. I see a little drop out right here or something. But let's clean this thing up, and then if this looks like it's something, we'll see. So let's process the data. So all I'm going to do is I went to process data. Again, you know, this scope can do this. Most scopes can do this. So smooth that data. There we go. Now we've got something that looks a lot better.
To our Pico guys out there, this is the same thing as doing your AC couple.
Yep. All right. So I want to blow this section up just a little bit more. This is where the scope stopped when it set the code. So something happened here that caused this. Now, I was accelerating the whole time this thing set the code. So we were up here. First of all, let's look at our throttle positions. I know we've got a code for accelerator pedal. Sometimes if you have a throttle position that causes an issue, it might misflag an accelerator pedal. So let's just do a look at the accelerator pedal just to see if we see anything, or I'm sorry, at the throttle positions to see if we see any issues.
Yeah, this is pretty common in the GM world, guys. I'm sure a lot of you that watch our channel are pretty familiar with that.
So what I want to look at is, let's turn the accelerator pedals off. So here's our throttle position sensors. We see a little blip right here. Can you see that, Andy?
Yes, sir. Okay. You can see a little jump up and a little jump down.
Yep. So those don't bother me, and I'm gonna tell you why they don't bother me. We went to full throttle, and that could very well be the throttle plate just bouncing. Okay. And so I don't have an issue with that at all, because it is the same in both, and it is identical in both.
Yeah.
If we get the cursors out, and I love doing this, we come in, we get the cursors, we come over, we put it right there. All right? We get the other cursor, we bring it down here, we put it in the same spot on this red one. We can see that's a little bit up, that's a little bit down. The same exact point is where they want to cross. I mean, this thing is reading right. If we come right here to the middle, we say, all right, let's look at this. Where do they cross in the middle? They cross at 2.5 volts. I mean, you can't get any better than that.
No, that's perfect.
I'm calling the throttle position sensors good. I'm calling there's no issue there. So let's put the AP, and it didn't flag anything for the throttle positions. You know, and Mercedes is probably pretty good about finding the wrong thing. I mean, the engineers are pretty smart. All engineers are smart, but let's go in here and let's turn off everything we don't need. Grounds, the blue and the white, good. Power, green, good. No sense having that stuff on the screen. It's just gonna mess with our brain. At least it'll mess with my brain. So
it's a lot of info.
Yeah. So let's come here and let's look at this. So on first look here, I don't really see anything. I mean, it looks like everything went right. I mean, you know, we've started here. So we started at the same point. Started to go up a little bit. Same point, actually a little further back than that, probably about right there.
Yep.
See a little blip.
Get the little dip there on both.
And then we get a little dip on both. We start coming up, and we get this little guy right here. All right.
Same spot.
Same exact spot. I mean, that looks right.
Yeah.
Come over here. Everything's matching up. Everything looks like it's happening at the same time.
Yeah, and if our viewers are like I am, everything's visual for me. I say that in all the videos, guys. So this is just comparing, knowing spots on the scope to make sure we've got a comparison between both, if that makes sense to you all.
In time.
In time, yeah. Correct.
Because if this one did this way over here, right, and this one did this here, there's an issue, right?
Yep.
But they're reaching their spots at the same time. So what we need to determine right now is, because it's flagging APP, the code is for APP sensor 1. And let's go ahead and try to figure out where our sensor 1 is, okay? Which one is sensor 1? Because we don't know that right now, okay? So we're gonna do a little dive into that real quick and see if we can't figure out which one of these is sensor 1, and we'll come right back to you. All right, everybody. So here's our wiring. So let's pull up our board here. Sorry, didn't mean to get in front of you. All right. So our board is purple. We looked at all of these wires, okay? We didn't know what was what. We just know that what color scope leads we put on these terminals. And what we would determine is this. Again, we don't know what SP1S is. We don't know what SP2M is. I mean, obviously it means something. It could be in German for all we know. So we see can, we see crash and all this stuff, but what's KUP1? Who knows what that is? So what we can determine is this. On this violet and green wire, and on this is our orange lead. That's the one that goes high. And on this violet and yellow wire is our purple lead, okay? So we know now, because these two leads on the scope are the ones that are doing the trace. These are the signal wires. We don't have to know what's in here. We don't have to know what SP2M is and SP1S is. We know those are our signal wires. Now, how can we determine which one's 1 and which one's 2? Well, I'm going to take a wild guess here and go SP1 is signal 1 and SP2 is signal 2. I could be wrong, but we're going to have to go with that. So again, we don't know what Andy and I have sit here and talked about it, and sensor, we don't know.
Yeah, we can only assume what they're trying to say there, but we're assumptions get us in trouble. So yeah. We're going to use, like Bernie tells us all the time, we're going to use data-driven diagnostics to figure out what's what. Yeah,
we don't need to know, what that means is. So going with the data, we know that these are our two signals. We're going with sensor 1 being our orange lead. Okay, so let's go back over. So sensor 1 is the one that it's flagging for a bad sensor, or sorry, a reading that's shorted high. The specific code is that is shorted high. So if we come back over here and we go, okay, well, what is it supposed to be, right? There's no information that tells us, right? We haven't found any information just yet that tells us what it's supposed to be, but let's see what it is. Let's zero that cursor out. We love that Jeff at ATS has put that zero cursor button in there. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Shout out to Jeff.
Woo! Because before trying to get that thing on zero, oh my hands are a little shaky, guys. I mean,
you can tell by the camera, mine are extremely shaky.
So we're gonna grab this top one. That one's zero. We're gonna grab this top one. We're gonna just kind of go right through the middle of this guy. All right, I think that's a little low on that, but we're somewhere in there. Again, getting that thing sometimes is fun. And now I moved it too far. There we go. There, we're kind of at the top of it. 4.883. 4.883 at the top of that. Is that good or is that bad? Who knows, right? Let's compare it to the purple one, which we know is sensor 2. Sensor 2, top of it, ish, 2.5. Okay? Is that good or that bad? I don't know yet. So how are we going to find out what that's supposed to be? Well, what we've done is we've hooked up Zentry. So we've got Zentry in it, and we went into the code. We looked at the code set. What happened when the code set? We didn't see anything that was really off. I mean, we can throw a picture on the screen here. Camera guy, throw a picture on the screen, and it's not a very great picture. Again, we don't have camera guy, but it doesn't really show us anything. It's a freeze frame data from that code. It doesn't show us a lot. So we went in. Let's go over and look at what we got.
So for you guys that are unfamiliar, Zentry is the factory scan tool for Mercedes. Aftermarket tools, I think Sherwood would agree with me here. When it comes to Mercedes, they can leave a lot to be desired.
They can give you a lot of good information, but sometimes they don't give you the information that you need. But luckily we've got this here, and we're able to determine, what that sensor is supposed to read. Not in a really easy way, not in a way that says this is the spec, right? I'll be quite honest with you. We went on to all data had absolutely zero on this code. I mean, literally showed that the code didn't exist. Moto Logic, the code didn't exist. And I think Pro Demand, Andy, didn't it give us like a generic?
It gave us a generic to kind of help guide our diagnostic process ever so slightly.
Yeah, I mean, it just basically said, what does an accelerator pedal position sensor do? So we said, okay, we don't have a lot of information there. Let's come into here. So this is how we determined what this signal is supposed to be. Went in and just put in the the test procedure for the accelerator pedal sensor, okay? So, and I'll be honest, we actually did a throttle position too. We did we actually did a throttle test. It's got a pretty cool test for the throttle position. You actually go in there, you say you want to test it, you hit the button and it actually does the throttle, and it opens the throttle, and it's actually got a good and bad line, and then yours should stay in the middle, and it actually passed. We ran it, I think, what, 3 or 4 times?
Yeah,
and it passed
quite a
perfect.
few times, and it never seen any glitches and no dropouts. So we felt that was good data at that point.
Yep. So, and we kind of already ruled out the throttle, but you know, hey, we like to test, not guess. So we like to test everything. So it only took us literally, for everybody that goes, oh, you know, you guys testing a lot of stuff, that took us about maybe 1 minute to run that test, possibly 4 or 5 times.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it's pretty straightforward. And honestly, guys, it takes us longer to film these videos than it does to do the testing procedure.
pretty much. All right, so this is how we determine what the sensor is supposed to read. If we look here, this is the accelerator pedal not operated. So that's where we're at right this second. This accelerator pedal is sitting all the way up, nobody's in the car, and here's our voltage. Position sensor 1, 2.83 volts. Position sensor 2, 1.32 volts. It should be somewhere between 0.20 and 0.5, right? And then that's on pedal 1. Pedal 2 should be between 0.1 and 0.5. So we're good. 0.283 should be between 0.2, 0.5, we're good. 0.132, between 0.100, 0.5, good, okay? And they're green. Thanks for Mercedes to showing that, okay? Now, we have a problem at full throttle. Well, how are we going to determine what it's supposed to be at full throttle? Well, look right here. I don't have it activated. Obviously, it's still sitting, nobody's in the car. But look at what we got. 0.43 at full throttle to 0.48, okay? And then that's a position sensor 1. That's the one we think we have an issue with because that's the one that's flagging. Accelerator pedal 2, 132. Well, we're not worried about that, I'm sorry. 2.1 to 2.8. So it needs to be between these numbers when I push the throttle all the way to, when I push the accelerator pedal all the way to the floor. So let me push the accelerator to the floor.
4.766 and 2.38.
So we're in spec here, right?
Yeah.
476, 383. What's our highest here? Or well, I'm sorry, what's our highest on this one? 0.3, 2.38?
8.3 maybe.
2.8,
maybe,
okay.
somewhere in there.
So this one at its highest is not even halfway between these two. This one at its highest is bumping up on that high number. Right off the bat, I'm going, I don't know what, I mean, obviously it's in spec, but man, that's way close to that number. I mean, that's bumping up against it, right? I mean, we're talking about if I'm on a 0.766, 0.4 of a volt, but hey, that's what Mercedes says. Let's go with it. So what I want to do now is let's go back over to our scope and let's see what the voltage was on these two sensors. We know that the code is accelerator pedal position sensor 1 shorted high. So what I want to look at is both of these sensors at their highest peak when we floored it. So let's go back over and take a look at that. So again, let's remember the numbers. I'm going back. Where are we going there, cameraman?
I'm all over the place, guys. I'm trying to zoom in for you.
We good?
We're good.
All right. So if we look on here, we go, okay, let's pull the cursors back over. Let's come back down here. Let's zero that one. Let's come back to this one. Let's put it back at the... I'm not quite at the top of that. I'm kind of middle of the road, maybe a little 3/4 of the way through. Can you zoom in? I don't know if you can see right here, Andy.
Yeah, 4.857.
That's definitely over 4.8. Now here's the key. If we're okay at 4.76, that's that's not even 4/10. I mean, we were at 4.66. If
4.76 depending. Yeah.
So 0.2 of a volt, something
Yep.
like that from the maximum. I mean, we're half a volt over the maximum. Now, you know, I got a little bit of a line here. So let's go and let's put it to the bottom of that line. All right, there's the bottom of that line, I would think. You think?
I'd call that the bottom, yeah.
4.818. We're still over, right? So this is where it, through the code, right? So somewhere in here is where the problem is, and that is clearly over the spec of that APP sensor 1 in the test that it shows.
Yep.
So, all right, now let's look at 2. Let's just compare. Let's just see. Does 2 bump up against it and 2 isn't, you know, could that be an issue? 2 is 2.474. So we're way within spec there, right?
Yeah,
what was the spec there?
Right
2 to 2.8, right?
Yes, sir.
So we're right in the middle of that one, and this one's over the maximum. Okay. I will tell you, we believe right now that this sensor right here is our problem. We know that our powers are good. We don't have any issues there. We know our grounds are good. If we had a bad ground, so just so everybody kind of understands this, the reason that we look at the ground is if the ground would have raised, okay, the ground would have raised for some reason, that could cause this code, because when the ground voltage goes up, the voltage is going to go up, okay? So be aware of that. Always look at that ground. Always look at the power, okay? So just like if you're looking at a short down, well, if your power for some reason has a not an open, but a voltage drop, right? If it drops down, well, then your maximum voltage is going to drop down, okay? So we believe right now that this sensor in that accelerator pedal is no good, okay? And because we know right now it's above, right this minute, this is during the test drive, when it failed, 100%, the module was seeing this where it was, it flagged this high, we just showed that it's high. So we believe this is the problem, that this accelerator pedal is failed internally. And so we're gonna order an accelerator pedal, hopefully be here tomorrow. We'll be able to get the accelerator pedal installed. It's very easy to get to. Get that installed, and definitely we'll let you know. We'll fix it. Hopefully be able to get you another scope pattern. It is going to be a Monday morning, so that's going to be a little tough, but we're going to do our best to get you another scope pattern, at least if it's, you know, down and dirty, and show you what what a new one looks like. So we'll let you know tomorrow what we find. All right, everybody, we're back. It's Monday. We got the accelerator pedal in. Andrew's already got it installed, and so Andrew's going to drive it down the road. We're going to get the scope pattern. We got our cameraman back. We're all happy today. So we're going to take it down the road, and we're going to get a scope pattern, and we're going to see what we got. So here we go.
All right, we're going to go wide open. That's wide open throttle.
That's it. Didn't make it this far yesterday.
Nope. She definitely is much happier today.
All right, everybody, we're gonna pull off here. We're gonna turn around. Actually, we're gonna go back to the shop, and then we'll get this data pulled up on you and show you a good scope pattern on this car. So give us just a minute. We'll be right back to the shop. All right, everybody, we're back at the shop. We've got the data on the screen. We've processed the data. Remember all the hash that was in it. I've already done that. Looks like one of our throttle position sensor, the yellow lead came off. I'm not worried about it. We know that one's fine. So let's turn off all the ones that we're not worried about. We're going to turn off our power. We're going to turn off all our grounds. So here's one we were worried about yesterday. Let's blow this up again. Let's get real close in here if we can. All right, let's bring our cursors in and let's look what we got. So let's go ahead and zero that one. Bring it in. 4.561. So remember the spec was 4 to 4.8. If I remember right, it was yesterday, but this was just a touch over 4.8, and now we're hovering in the middle, which, if we remember right, this one was 2 to 2.8, and it's hovering somewhere in low middle. So this car's fixed. 100% this car's fixed. Even if I go to the high end of that little tiny piece right there, 4.587. That was the problem. Here's a key takeaway with this. That was a very, very, very small voltage over the maximum voltage. I mean, we were talking about, I think, hundreds of a volt.
30,000 or something like that.
So this is why a scope, you would never ever find that with a multimeter. This is why you have to have a scope. And not only is this why you have to have a scope, this is why you have to really dig into it. Put your cursors, move your cursors around. Find out what the voltages actually are. Then go in and find out what they had to be, what they're supposed to be. Now that did take us a little bit of work, but you can find that data, you know. And so that was a very small amount over the voltage. It caused this car to go to limp mode. Not a hard one to find, really, once we had the data, but definitely, you know, if somebody would have just gone in here and done that pedal, it looks fine. You know, if you looked at just came over here and just looked at your screen over here, yeah, that looks okay. You know, I mean, it was just up in this area, right? Yeah, it looks like it's under 5, but we're probably okay. You know, no, I mean, you got to think about it. The engineer put a threshold on that. That voltage broke that threshold, and that car went to limp mode. Especially on a system like throttle by wire. You know, that is such a safety system. So that thing is tightly controlled. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. We hope you liked it. If you did, how about give us a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment below.
And don't forget to ring the bell, get notified of any of our future videos.
Absolutely, we appreciate it.